This week, I got something cooking up good for you. We are talking about mastering your money. What should you be doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Not just on your annual taxes. What are the steps to making sure that you are financially secure and growing? Today, we got somebody, and we're going to shift gears a little bit. Yeah, we're going to talk about how finances and all of the things that the Motivated Money Systems framework has helped her do in her business. But we're also going to be talking about burnout. A lot of times in business, you don't realize how much other stuff you got to do, right? And you have to align what goes on in your household and your lifestyle with making money. But we invited Brittni on, and I want to really talk about and navigate through the changes that she made in her business to support her own well-being, right? And how that subsequently supported her finances. You asked, I delivered. Today I'm going to introduce you to my new podcast, Ask Jenni. I just want to get you some of the feels, introducing myself as a coach, as a business owner, as a wife, as a mother. Join me as we continue this journey of growth together. Like, comment, and subscribe. So I like to start each of these with a little bit of flowers getting thrown at you. I call it my little Club Shay Shay moment for when I get my own show later on, you know. So I want to give an introduction for you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am thrilled to introduce Brittni, a true powerhouse in the PR industry whose extensive experience spans writing press releases, creating standout events, launching artists, and elevating brand presences on social media. Brittni has not only excelled in her field through her infectious energy and vast network of relationships, but she has also given back immensely, establishing a scholarship in her name and mentoring emerging talents. Recently, she refined her service offerings into a full service package for select clients, strategically reducing her workload to prevent burnout while simultaneously boosting her income. This shift allows her to focus on what truly matters, her well-being and continued success in the journey of entrepreneurship. Brittni's kindness, beauty, and golden heart make her not just a phenomenal professional, but also a cherished client and mentor in the PR world. So welcome.
Oh, that was
Welcome.
so beautiful. I was like, send me that. That's beautiful. Thank you.
You
Thank you
are
for the
so
amazing
welcome.
introduction. Yes, Jenni is big sis. I'm probably on her bad list right now, but
We gonna get you together. I'm
yes,
gonna get you
next
together.
on my list.
If I
Yes,
have to
thank you
come
so
get you.
much.
No, but I wanted to get your perspective because a lot of shifts you've made over the past few years in
Mhm.
business, I think will be instrumental in keeping a lot of people more focused. Sometimes you
Yeah.
think that you got to do everything the same way in order to grow and get more clients, but that's not the case, right? So talk to us a little bit about your journey and what led you into public relations to begin with.
Absolutely. So it's funny. I attended Eastern Michigan University, and I was there getting. I wanted to be a secondary education teacher, so I wanted to teach high school. When I was there, and I was heavily involved in a lot of campus activities, and founded EMU Fashion Week. And from there, I was introduced to how to relate information to the public. And someone told me, you should think about going into public relations. And this was something I had never heard before. Is it something, a career pathway that we don't know? And so I started looking it up, and I learned about Tatiana Grant, who is a mentor of mine. She's also a PR powerhouse here from Detroit. And I then shifted my major from, excuse me, from not community, but secondary education to communications. And that's when I was like, you know what? I think I can do this PR thing, because I, had coordinated sold out fashion shows, as well as I secured my first placement with Fox 2 News to coming and covering an actual show. So that's how I was introduced to public relations. I didn't know what PR was. I immersed myself in that career pathway, and it was from there and on, I just start learning and interning and volunteering and getting my feet wet of what that looked like and how PR actually worked.
I love that. I love that because I feel like a lot of that secondary education background kind of comes through when you start to mentor on
Yes,
other
it's a full
emerging talent.
circle.
So it's coming through. You still
Yes,
got it, but you
yes,
shifted. Okay, I like that a lot.
yes,
So
yes.
now, more recently, I know that before, it was like, come on, you need PR, let's get it done. Now
Mm-hmm.
you got strategic packages. What led
Mm-hmm.
you to kind of rebranding and reshifting how you offered your services and everything?
So it's funny that you asked that, and I don't know if you knew, but I made another shift and change in terms of my role. So I didn't know if we are gonna go into that a little bit later on,
Let's
but
talk about each shift.
each shift.
Let's
Okay, so this
talk through
shift
each shift.
so within my agency at first, the B agency, we were just, of course, building our reputation, building our portfolio. And then at a point in time, I had to really understand that who is our client target? Who is our audience? Who do we want to speak to? What does our dream client look like? Because we understand that you want to make income, and we understand that sometimes you're like, come on, I can do your PR, I can do, whatever. But we had to make it make sense for the direction that we wanted to go in, the type of income that we wanted to make. And that's where we had to really define, what does our perfect client look like? What is their industry? What is their income? What are their goals? And so it was uncomfortable because we had to have conversations, and we had to really sit down and shift our messaging and shift our look, and shift how we showed up as professionals. And that had to really, really take precedence in terms of, if we wanted to make a different, go into a different tax bracket or make a certain amount of income at the end of the year, we had to shift what that looked like. So it took about maybe 6 months of really honing in on putting a pause and not accepting new clients and not accepting new projects until we reformatted what that looked like. Because I know sometimes people may say, you can build the plane while it's in the air. I have high anxiety. I can't do that.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, no, we have to stop,
Okay.
plan it out. And I'm very, very, I hold a large emphasis in everything needs strategy. Everything
Okay.
needs a foundation before you can build the house on it. And so that's why we had to stop, make it make sense for us in terms of the direction that the B agency wanted to go in and who we wanted to serve.
Okay. So that's like one of the scariest things ever, right?
Yep.
To know that in order to grow, you got to focus in on your clients, but you might lose clients, or you don't know
Yep.
if the new client is going to come. Talk about that level of discomfort and how that actually paid off for
Mm-hmm.
the long run.
It's terrifying. And I'm
Yeah.
going to say it's terrifying as someone who was a full-time, this is how I paid my bills. This is how I paid my groceries. This is how every single bill was paid for, to where it's uncomfortable when people are used to paying one rate or having, one full focus. And you're like, no, we don't do that no more. So people are going to leave, and people are going to go to your competitors, or people are going to go to other people who can service them that's cheaper.
Yeah.
But I had to really, and it takes a different type of mindset to where if it's for you, it will be for
Yes.
you. And that's where faith comes into play. And not to say, if you have children, you have other
Yeah.
responsibilities. I'm never telling nobody, like, don't make no money, because we need money to survive. But that's why savings is important. That's why making sure that you're properly programmed, to where if something does shift and change and happen, to where you're comfortable, or you're
Mm-hmm.
fine to taking care of those things. But it was uncomfortable, but it was needed, because when you start, I was just taking on clients that didn't make sense, to where I'm not able to produce and meet your expectations, and that's creating more stress, to where you got your clients that are not happy. And then you're like, well, is this a full circle, to where we put ourselves in these positions,
Yeah.
to where you can control it and you can just easily stop and make it make sense. So some people are mad, some people still, whatever, it is what it is. But I had to really hone in on, everyone is not your client.
Very good. That's so
They're
good.
not.
That's so good.
And a lot of people may not be able to take that, but at the end of the day, I cherish um rest and relaxation more, and things to where it makes sense. And not every project or client that you may work with, it's not going to be easy, but
Yeah.
you have the power to control what is yours.
Yeah.
And for us, it was, we no longer service entertainment.
Yeah.
We don't care if you're paying us this amount. We don't care what your name is. That's not our level of genius.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And it's so crazy. It made me think about two stats I looked up. 34.4% of entrepreneurs experience burnout at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And 62% of small business owners reported having burnout at least once a month. Okay?
And it's real. And
So,
it is real. And it is sad because a lot of us, we are having heart attacks at earlier ages.
yes.
We are not we're drinking more. We're not taking care of ourselves. And specifically as an entrepreneur, full-time entrepreneur at that, it is not
Yeah.
easy. Because everything, as a solopreneur, I was a solopreneur, it all falls on you. So if something does not go well, you can't put the blame on anyone else but yourself.
Yeah.
But it was like, how do I make it make sense to
Yeah.
where every client is not for you, and it's okay,
Yeah.
y'all. Like, it's okay.
Yes.
And then if you so good at what you do, they gonna find the money. They gonna come back.
So true. That's
They
so.
are. They're always going to come back. And if not, it's not for you. And that doesn't mean you can't support them. You don't talk bad about them. You may not be in somebody's budget, so you don't have to talk down on them. It may not be in the right realm, and it's okay. You can still, it's just, yeah. So,
I love that testimony because a lot of times people they don't want to go up on their prices, or they don't want
yeah.
to, shift to not taking on certain
Don't.
things. I remember when I first started, I was knocking down LLC paperwork. I was like, whatever you need. That's not my lane. Why am
Yeah.
I creating all of these business entities when a business
Mm-hmm.
attorney needs to be doing that, right? So
Yep.
finding
Mm-hmm.
your lane and shifting to where you're
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, where your expertise is, the money comes.
The money comes, it cuts down the stress because you can really hone in on your level of genius and what makes the most sense. And
Yes.
sometimes money should never lead. I learned that
Mm.
from Dan Gilbert. Money should never lead, it will always follow. And I started shifting that mindset when I did, before I quit and went full time. There's a book that he has, it's Isms book. And if you ever get your hand on it, if everybody ever worked at a Quicken Lounge, you know about the Isms book. I don't know if they still have it, but it was like certain isms
Yeah.
that he built the company on. And that was one of the most important things that I had to learn, was like, money should never lead. It shouldn't. And we know money is the root of all evil. It's like, it's always going to come. And
Yeah.
it always is going to flow. And we have to stop creating more stressful situations to where it's like you can control it.
Yeah. And it's so crazy because that goes in line with one of the sayings that I've always, since my husband first told me this, it's something I live by. Never fall in love with a deal.
Hey,
Somebody will
never.
dangle that thing right in front of you, but if it ain't for you, if it does not align, it's going to stress you out more.
Yep.
You're going to have a client that you don't want to talk to. You have a client that's not happy, who's spreading that unhappiness, right?
Yeah.
And
It's just gonna be a lot.
it's a lot. But one thing you talked about was foundation and strategy. And a lot of times what I've seen in business owners is that you can't make a whole bunch of money if you don't take care of your business, right?
Yeah.
Like if you ain't got your cash flows in order, you ain't really handling what you're supposed to handle, it's going to be a peak.
Yes.
Now, are you ready to jump over that peak? But shifting that money mindset and really honing in on not just all of the money, but keeping your money, investing your money, saving your money, right? Let's talk through just kind of how having that focus in the shift of what you're even taking on, how has that affected everything as far as income and revenue sources and everything?
It's a piece of the foundation.
Yeah.
So at the top, either top of the year or quarterly, I always made it a note to revisit our pricing, revisit how many projects we need to take on per month. That helps me figure out, and it will be like, I'll do a staycation, I'll get a room in a hotel, whether it be like in Chicago, or if it doesn't make sense to go to Chicago, it's me staying at home, or whatever makes the most sense in terms of how many projects do we need at this rate each quarter, and how much is that bringing in. And that will help me determine how many, my contractors do I need to bring in, and I know their rates, so I can always include it and embed it. And then I know how much my expenses are for business in terms of, rent or business insurance and all those things, to where I do that at the top of the year, the first week in January, and then quarterly you should be always revisiting what and how you need to categorize how many projects we need X, Y, Z. So a lot of people used to get mad at me when I was like, yeah, I'm done for projects for the rest of the year. And they'd be like, you always booked. And it's just like, I don't believe in overworking yourself. And that goes to my mom passed away from a brain aneurysm because she was stressed. So I've always made it a point to where if I can control it, then it has to make sense for me. Now, granted, I am in an industry that is already high stress. I do events, I do public relations. So every day, every hour is different. But I know, and I like vacationing, I like relaxing, I like making my time worth it. So I'm very big on planning. But it's based on knowing this is our capacity, because we don't believe in taking on too much work that you cannot handle. And a lot of us do that just so we can say we got all the clients, we gonna have all the money. I'd rather show up and provide excellence and service so I can give dedication to a client versus trying to manage something that I cannot, even putting more stress on my team members. That is insane. And it's not something that I believe in. But that's why I believe foundation is important, especially when we're speaking about money and financials, to where it can set you up for success, how it looks when you're filing quarterly, filing at the end of the year, so you can know what those numbers look like. You can know what contractors you're needing. You can know how to get those W-9s. All of that, it goes hand in hand to making it easier for, at the end of the year.
Yeah, and that's so good, because what you said in the very beginning was the cost of sales. How much is this going to cost me to make this money? And how much money am I actually going to come back with? Is one of the frameworks.
It's simple. Because, it's like, I need to make sure that I can pay my bills, but at the same time, I need to make sure before me taking care of myself, if I'm hiring somebody to help on a project, I know how much I need to be charging for this project. So it's not, it's simple math. And I know sometimes it's hard and it's uncomfortable. And I have a lot of younger entrepreneurs who are uncomfortable of saying what's their hourly rate or how much you're charging. And I don't know. And I don't know if this is a cultural thing. I don't know what it is, but I struggled with that when I was like, I don't know how much to charge. So it's like, where do I pull this number from? So it's like really honing in on how many hours does it take for you to complete a task, and how do you multiply that for a 30, 60, 90-day project, and then presenting it. And if somebody doesn't take it, they can't afford it, they got nothing to do with you.
That's so good. And that's the beauty of service-based businesses. Like, there is no cap on what we can charge, but there's also no benchmark. Like, listen, do you want this expertise, and you want this expertise? But
and then they're gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
And if they don't, it's okay. And it's But I've heard a lot of people, and we're in a climate to where I've heard, sometimes your rates are too high, and that's okay, because you're getting a certain level of expertise and service that it is what it is.
But what I think the main thing, because everybody, I feel like, struggles with that in the beginning. I know I did. If somebody, came in just to do a tax return, and I told them $400, they said, oh, I got two. I was like, all right, give me the two. Give me the two. I got to make this money. I don't know what's going on. Now, but that came with, we over a decade in this thing.
You can't.
What do you think, as a mentor to this next generation of people that are following behind you, what do you think is the key to honing in on your expertise, not undervaluing yourself, and making sure that you are staying in line with the industry standard at least?
Yes. And I do think that is important, and I'll start with industry standard. You should have a community of other people that are in your industry, number one, that you can talk to, and you should be comfortable. And I know sometimes people are not comfortable with sharing their rates, but it can't be five people in your same industry, in your same city, and you're charging $30,000 and they're charging $1,500. Now, granted, it can, based on expertise in those things, but it goes back to what are you offering versus what I'm offering, and things of that nature. But communication is key, and also you can easily do the research of market rate and things of that nature of different industries. But I do think that communicating with your colleagues is very, very important. And then sometimes they don't want to share with you. That's cool. But I also do think, in the service-based industry, another great example of understanding how much people are charging is when you're going up for RFPs. You are able to see how much others are charging when they're bidding, to where you may be like, oh, damn, we charge way low. So, for the next time I need to charge high, because I'm offering you the same thing. You can do a little bit more. So that's when you get into the bidding process and piece. you asked another question in terms of how can the next generation really stand on their rates.
Yeah.
It comes with confidence, but
Yeah.
before that, I always want to make sure that people know whatever your rate is, it has to match the service that is provided.
That's so good. Yeah.
And sometimes we get like, oh, I'm gonna charge this rate, and if I'm doing hair, I'm gonna charge whatever amount I want to come to the flow, but you late, the experience is not right, from top to bottom. It's just like, I'm not about to be paying you this, and it's not a full circle experience. It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. So it's like, you got to have accountability for yourself, to where that's number one, but it's a confidence to where being comfortable with knowing my rate is my rate.
Yeah.
I know I can show up and I can do this. I have a vast resume and portfolio that can back it up. I have references that can back up my work, and I can stand on what it is that I do. So it's not really a blueprint to tell you how to like stand on your rate, but it's
Yeah.
like, you gotta have that confidence, like stand on it, be able to show up and show out,
Yeah.
and you want to make sure that you have to understand it. We are in a recession. So when somebody is paying you, no matter if it's $20, $15, $100,000, that could be somebody's last, or somebody had to, do something to give you that.
Yeah.
You should be cherishing it and giving that utmost experience, to where they have confidence in being able to spend that ROI and getting
I,
that ROI.
I
Excuse
agree
me.
with that 100%. So one of the things before we talk about your final shift,
Mhm. Okay.
financial shortcomings and just overcoming generational financial
Mm.
hurdles and mental mindset. Since we've been
Hmm.
working together, what are some of the things that I've helped you shift in that money mindset to get you to where you are?
Number one, and I'm gonna be very transparent, y'all. I was never taught properly why you need to file your taxes, the importance of what it looked like. I just knew it was something that my mom did at the top of the year.
Yeah.
But since working with Jenni, it was a hone in on understanding of, you have to have systems that make it easier at the end, or that at that time of year, to where investing in QuickBooks or investing in a proper management system, to where you're keeping track of all your W-9s, documentation. You really put an emphasis on what that looked like, as well as your consultations and education really shifted the mindset of like, are you a LLC, or should you be filing as an S corp? As well as, I have been able to have transparent conversations with Jenni in terms of my shortcomings and things that I've fallen off the track with, because I'm human, and I'm never going to be like, I'm an all-star. Woo, tax. Like, no, I'm not, y'all. I'm trying to keep on top of everything. But it's always good to have someone who is in your corner like Jenni, to where she's going to hold you accountable. She's going to stay on top of you, and you're going to know, like, well, I can do this for you, but the rest of it's on you. And if you don't do it, that's on you. So documentation, staying on top of your book, staying on top of what makes the most sense, and creating a cadence to where at the end of the year, what needs to be documented, what needs to be saved, what are the best decisions for you. And I think I really, really appreciate that in terms of working with her. From day one, I was able to come to her and was like, hey, I ain't been doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I need some help. And I
Yeah.
felt no shame. And I think a lot of us is uncomfortable because we don't like talking about money generationally.
No.
But then you have to take that information to somebody else, to where you're
Yeah.
like, dang, they gonna judge me. And it's like, I've never felt that way. And then it was also a comfortability of knowing that somebody has my best interest, to where I've worked with tax professionals before, to where I could not even tell you what happened, or it just was
Yeah.
this was not right. But as a business owner, you have to have a tight relationship with your tax professional,
Yeah.
because there are different things to where you may not know that are implemented through the government, to where I don't know, to where you want someone. And Jenni, the commentary of newsletters and education, everything, a portable system, to where if I email, I'm gonna get a 24 to 48-hour response. So just from top to bottom, that's
I love
everything.
that. No, but so now, before we get off, because I gotta let you go, I know you're busy. Let's talk about that final shift and what's next. You said,
Hey y'all, so 14 years I've been doing this. For 14 years, I have finally made this, not finally made, but I recently made a shift to where I went back to corporate, y'all. I went back to corporate. I knew at the end of the year it was somewhat of a time to where I wanted to understand what level did I wanted to take my agency, and did it make sense for me to continuously go in that flow of being a solo entrepreneur, and what type of lifestyle that I wanted to create for myself the next 10, 15 years. And with that, I wanted to work with people. I wanted to have colleagues. I wanted to help with different missions and connect. And not to say that I didn't have that within my own agency and doing the work that I was doing, but I think it was a time for me as a professional to really leverage what that looked like with a corporate entity that holds the same values as I do. So I'm still in the same industry of what I do. I am now in a senior director position, to where it makes the most sense for me, financially, as well as for me to still be able to have my freedom and do and go as I please. But that is the shift. So, and it's okay, y'all, if you got to go back to corporate, and it makes sense for you, it's totally okay, of what that looked like. So that's the final shift.
And, I think that that's so good, because so many people feel like they're a failure if they
Yeah,
go get a job,
that was a
or,
thought. I had that thought.
and, and no, it's all about you making money and keeping it, right? Now, tax code favors businesses, so I talk to a lot of business owners. However, I'm still going to help you keep all of your money or as much of it as possible in that corporate position. So just, aligning what makes sense for your life, what makes sense for, your pockets, and what makes sense to avoid burnout is always evaluating where you are right now. Not where you were
Yep. And now it
five
was,
years ago,
no,
not where you
you're
were
not the
yesterday.
same.
Right
You're not the
now.
same. And it was wake up calls to where we go back to that
Yeah.
burnout, to where you got to really sit down and evaluate, like, well, what made me burn out? Why was
Yeah.
that? Like, you got to really figure out why. And I think for me, the lifestyle that I want to have, I want to be able to, work.
Yeah.
Now, granted, do I still do things on the side based on my expertise? Absolutely. But it's to where
Yeah.
I can control
Yeah.
it and it makes sense for me. So
Yeah.
it's okay. I had a conversation with my friend. I was like, what are people going to think when we put out the announcement? Because we did a whole press announcement
Yeah.
when I took this position. And I literally almost had a panic attack, because I was thinking about what people would think, because I've built something and it looked like I was stepping away from it. And that was one of the questions, like, well, what made you just leave everything? And like, people are just, they were confused, and it was just kind of like, you've been doing this for 14 years and you just stopped and said you're gonna go for somebody else. How much is they paying you?
Yeah.
And it wasn't even that. It was more so like, I wanted peace of mind and working with a collective together, to where it's not all on me, or I didn't want to be in a certain leadership role or position, to where I'd rather work with a team that is full of
Yeah.
experts. That's what I wanted.
I love it. I love it. And I appreciate you so much for even sharing that, because so many people need to hear that.
Yeah, it's okay,
It's
y'all. And let me
okay.
tell y'all, the way that everything is going up, y'all, no, it's like, it was really me sitting down and really calculating things to where it makes sense. And it was like a trickle down effect. And granted, anybody can get laid off, anybody can get fired.
Yeah.
So, that it can always happen.
Yeah.
To where it was like, what makes the most sense for me in terms of if I want to have a family, if I want, all of these things, to where what makes the most sense.
Yes.
So,
And guess what? That side business still gonna get written off.
it's still there, y'all. It's still there. But I'm able to, navigate it to what makes the most sense. And I'm now with an amazing company, to where I prayed for this, and I said, if I ever go back to corporate, it has to be for a company or a brand that I share their vision, and it makes sense for me, and it's crafted for me. And sometimes, and I spoke the power of discernment over that, what that looked like, and I said, God, I'm gonna listen. And the opportunity was already brewing for like 2 years, but they was like, how much would you have to pay you? And that's where negotiation went into that process. So I had to negotiate that, all of that, but it made sense for me. And when I was comfortable enough, I made that decision.
Yeah.
And it wasn't
I love it.
forced. So
I want to just reaffirm you that everything is in alignment, and
absolutely,
that you have to, a part of your money mindset shift
Yeah.
It's not keeping up with the Joneses. It's not trying to figure out what works for somebody else. It's not, trying to appear some type of, it's none
Mm-hmm.
of that. It is about what is going to be the best for me. And so I just love that for you. And like I
Yeah.
said, that's a side business. Now we're going to utilize that to
You
reduce
know, I was
tax
like, yeah, I
liability
got a
for the
W.
W-2
Ooh, ooh.
income.
Balance it out. You know, I was like, how can we balance it out? We got it. We got
We got
it.
it. So I want to let you go, but I like to end with a key little statement. And I help PR professionals like Brittni achieve sustainable business growth and personal well-being with strategic bookkeeping and tax planning without the misconception that increasing professional success requires sacrificing personal health and happiness. So this is so full circle. I wrote that even before we just talked through this final shift. And
Yes.
I think it's just such an alignment. You can't do better for yourself. Have investments, have a savings, manage your cash flows, make sure your taxes are paid when you down in
Mm-hmm.
the up trying to keep up with what other people think works
Yep.
for you. Do you? And I'm so glad and thankful
Yes.
that you made
Thank
that shift
you.
and you said, forget it. You shook that anxiety off and you get
Mm-hmm.
into it.
And every day I get to laugh and work with an amazing group of people. That literally all we do is laugh in the office, but and we
I
laugh and get
love
work
it.
done.
I
And it's
love
a
it.
black owned
Yes.
agency, and I love it. I have fun every single day.
So if anybody wants to still get in
Mm-hmm.
touch with you, get in
Yep.
touch with your new company, all of that stuff, give us some
Yes.
stuff where we can find you.
Yes. So you can find me if you're looking for personal brand specific work. Still operating under the B agency. So at BE at the B agency spelled out.com. And if you are looking for some amazing PR support for on a larger corporate or community impact focus, I work with an amazing PR company which is known as 98 It is Michigan's largest black owned and women led PR agency in the full country. And the legacy is a 30-year legacy of the work that they have been doing. We have an amazing team, and we would love to have you. And you can reach me at Brittni. I'm the Senior Director of Public Relations and Events at 98 and my email there is brittni at 984.com.
I love it. I
That's it.
love it. Well, thank you so
Thank you
much.
for having me.
You know I love you.
Love
You know I got your back
you
in all of
too.
the things.
Yes.
So this was
Yes.
good.
Yes.
This was
Y'all, and
so
I owe
good.
Jenni something right now, y'all. So see, I gotta get into it. It's on my list. But
Look,
yes.
now I'm
But
on
yes,
top of your
thank you.
mind.
Yes, I know. Yes, yes. So thank you so much. And thank you so much, Micah. Thank you. Hey,
you,
Stephen, thank you all
I
so
know.
much.
Look, you have a great day and
You
look,
too.
give me what I
I
need.
know. Yes, I will. Okay.
All right. Bye,
Bye.
everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Ask Jenni. Ask Jenni has been in the works since 2016. I have started tax team services, developed coaching programs for small business owners and tax professionals, and I've even started a podcast with my husband, Finding Love. You can follow me on Jenni L. Hendricks on all platforms. But before you leave, like, comment, subscribe, and ask Jenni anything. I'm here to talk to you more about business, life, love, and all things growth.